Well, good afternoon, everyone. How are you feeling? Everyone's got some muck going on? Coffee? So Raj and I are going to present today. We're going to try and keep it entertaining for you. So rather than death by PowerPoint, we're going to give you some insights to the DevOps and the journey, and then take you through a demo as well. Sound good? Excellent. Click away.
Well, I think thanks for the quick introduction, and what we want to do is more of a conversation today in terms of where do we start with respect to a cloud journey and self-service portal, and how do we use the DevOps, some of the tools, and how do we see the business value of Puppet in that. So that's how we are going to see.
That was a young version of me. So just in case you're make sure we're in the same room, what we're going to talk to you about today is how do you automate, how you discover, manage, and deliver applications and the infrastructure they run on. So after the 30 minutes, you should have a very clear understanding of how we do that, both from Puppet, with VMware, and with AsiaSoft. Jump to the next slide, please, Ralph. And why do we care about that? Because everyone's becoming a software company. If you go back 20 years, if you were a railway company, you generally worried about delivering cargo, mail, and passengers. Now, you become a software company. If you're a logistics or car company, you've become a software company. Airlines become software companies. Utilities companies are becoming software companies to drive that customer and user experience. So everyone wants to deliver better software and faster. Now, how do you do that? Well, generally we think about automation. Now, automation means how do I empower IT teams to deliver software faster with less errors. So how do I do that? Well, I eliminate a lot of the manual processes, and if I can do that, I'll increase productivity, I'll increase the quality of my software, I'll improve the user experience, and I'll drive more innovation.
So, Darren, just a quick question. So, what is the outcome for the business by doing this?
Great. Let me cover that in a second. If we take, you just jump back a slide. If you look at automation, without automation, you can't do DevOps. Now, I know DevOps used to be like cloud, where cloud means many things to many people. My definition of DevOps is how do you take the developers with the IT support and production guys and bring them together so they work together on the entire IT software lifecycle, from planning to development to production support. And if you're out there in the room, any developers? Any IT production guys? What's IT? Do you guys ever go for coffee and talk to each other? Historically not. And so what's key is how do we enable collaboration between those two groups together, and now with security in there as well. Because we do that, better collaboration leads to better software, happier users, and healthier companies, because you can spend more time in disrupting your own industry and other industries versus being disrupted. And that leads to better software. Now, Raj, to your question. Well, if we jump back to that slide, what you'll notice, if you go backwards, Raj asked me, what are the business outcomes? Well, here's some examples. You can see a lot of customers here that are using Puppet's technology and a lot of VMware as well. And what they see is say, a 5% reduction in IT operational expense. You ask them, what is that? Well, what it usually translates to is you can now manage more servers. So with the same number of people, you can manage more services. Maybe more frequent deploys, 2.5 times more frequent deploys. It means I can roll out applications faster. Less time fixing security and compliance issues. Anyone got a headache? Imagine that, 76% less of your time responding to audit, security, and compliance. That's a huge benefit if you do automation, because you've got to limit all those manual tasks. And obviously being able to deploy applications faster is key. So these are some of the business outcomes, if you like, that you can tailor metrics to. In fact, within the portfolio we have a tool that actually allows you to manage your velocity, the quality of your software, and the impact to your business. So you can tell the CIO how you're failing less and recovering faster. You can tell the CFO the productivity of the developers. And you can tell the CEO how you're driving more innovation, which is pretty exciting.
I mean, that's fantastic, right? Especially on the security and compliance. I've seen several use cases where spinning just a virtual machine just to get out of the template sprawl, how they will basically have a vanilla VM without any agents. How many of us build the virtual machine templates with agents. So basically, you know, when you have to go through multiple VAPT assessment for each of your template, how does that impact? Right? That's a great point. Thanks.
Excellent. Thanks, Raj. Now, we're all in this room today because you guys all remember back to the old days. Remember we just had physical servers to worry about? Anyone got grey hair like me remembers just physical servers? And then we moved to virtual servers, and VMware drove that move. And that increased the complexity by about tenfold. Now we've moved to cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud, multi-cloud, increased the complexity another 10 times. Containers, anyone doing containers? More complexity, 10 times, and then whatever's next. Is it serverless, microservices, Lambda? So what we see is these processes aren't getting easier. In fact, you're seeing more and more manual processes coming online. So what's really important is how do you automate that? Now, from a public point of view, we've been doing a State of DevOps report for the last 7 years. We surveyed over 30,000 professionals on what they're seeing with success in DevOps. We've just released the latest version in 2018, and if you visit the AsiaSoft stand, you can get a link to that copy and download it. It's pretty fascinating, but 5 key points out of that. 1, there are many paths to success with DevOps, but there are more paths to failure, which was quite interesting. The second feedback is that executive management is more optimistic about DevOps than the teams. Sound familiar? They've also discovered that collaboration and cross-team sharing is a critical point to scaling DevOps. So that collaboration is key to doing it. Building in and automating security policies is mission critical to DevOps success. And where the customers that are succeeding is they're starting close to production. They're automating tasks either close to where the production is done, or they're automating tasks in the software development lifecycle and deployment phases. Those organizations are seeing the most success with DevOps. And obviously, Raj, as a CTO, you've kind of gone through this yourself. How do you see this working?
Definitely, I mean, essentially when we start embarking on any DevOps journey, we got this couple of pillars here, right? We start looking at the traditional infrastructure where we have your network, compute, storage. What are the key service definitions? How am I actually going to look at what are those services that I would want my end users to consume? How am I going to provide the cost transparency to the users? And then I'm able to move up the stack in terms of the traditional infrastructure, and then we start talking about the on-prem cloud versus the public cloud, and leveraging these cloud as a resources. So, you know, anytime, any application, any cloud, but then it's also going to help me in faster go-to-market. And then we start really looking at application services. How am I able to really get my application from SIT to UAT to production, and without, you know, while enforcing all the gates that I need to put in. And finally, we are looking at the monolithic applications and the microservices applications. And when we start really looking at microservices, how does this latency and other key aspects will come into picture, and how does this tie together? That's the kind of ways we see. And obviously, for any customer, you know, or any enterprise embarking on this journey, they need to look at both the breadth and the depth. So how do they start? Where do they start, and how do they go about? So probably, why wouldn't you give a quick overview on where do we start?
Okay, great. So one of the things we've seen with success of DevOps being success is generally customers don't know where to start, organizations, because it's hard to know what you have. Right? And we talked earlier about trying to automate closer to production, or earlier in the software lifecycle. So there's a tool that we have called Public Discovery. And what Public Discovery allows you to do is to go out to container-based application. It'll go out and look at your infrastructure. It'll look and tell you what servers you have running, what virtual machines you have running, what containers you have running, and network devices. Doesn't matter where they are, if they're on-prem or on the cloud. Obviously, you have to log in and have the right permissions to do that, but it'll go and tell you where all that's at. So you can now discover what Docker images you have, Kubernetes you're running, operating systems you're running. It's pretty handy, because what you're able to do is you can look at servers that maybe have patches that aren't applied. You can look at servers that have spun up overnight in the cloud that you weren't aware of. And the cool thing is you can take action against them. So it's not necessarily a CMDB, it allows you to take action. So you can execute a task, start them, stop them, install an agent on them, and take control of those devices. So this gives you, in real time, a very easy view of exactly what infrastructure you have and what's running on that infrastructure. So discover what you have.
Wow. So once I know what I have, this is where my service definition management is actually going to kick in, right? So I know what are the services my users would like to consume and how should they, how can I see the utilization of those services and how I can make sure that the adoption of such services can be increased across the stack, both from a breadth and the depth perspective. So what next?
So I think you mentioned earlier, so how do I, once I know what I have, how do I scale broadly and deeply and do that pervasively? And so we have a tool set that allows you to do that, which is integrated to VMware, which is called Puppet Enterprise. And most of the people know Puppet from our open source version, but Puppet Enterprise is our commercial version. It lets you manage any container in any cloud, any bare metal or any virtual machine, common network devices and any operating system, whether you're running Unix, Linux, Red Hat. We can even go to mainframe, so the whole scope that you're looking to manage, because most organizations have what I call snowflakes, one of everything, and they're all unique. So this gives you the ability to manage all of that. We'll jump ahead, just jump back forward. And we let you do it two ways. When you go to production, you want to have a model-based approach, where you know exactly what the policies are and you enforce them. That's a model-based approach, uses agents. Some people don't like that, especially developers. So you can also use a task-based approach. You can just run scripts at things. So with Puppet Enterprise, you get the best of both worlds. I can be task-based and run scripts, and I can be model-based and have a structure. They're both useful. In development, I just want to run tasks. On day 2 support, when I've got 10,000 devices I'm managing, I really want a model-based approach, because it's very hard to manage 10,000 different devices with scripts and running tasks. And the cool thing is this has all got role-based access control, scales to over 100,000 nodes. We've got customers here in Singapore approaching 10,000 nodes already, so scaling that up. And the really important thing, remember, 71% savings in security and compliance. Everything you do with Puppet is tracked and auditable. So you can pass those audit security tests like that. You'll know who changed what, when they changed it, and what they changed it to. Or more importantly, you can stop them from changing it. So Puppet will enforce what you define as the policy for any device. And if it drifts, it'll reinforce that policy. Or it may drift and alert you, because maybe you want to have that happen. So that's what Puppet Enterprise does. Now, everyone today talks about CI/CD, continuous integration and continuous delivery. Well, we've actually integrated into Puppet Enterprise continuous delivery. That means all the Puppet code you write, you can apply a continuous delivery process to it. So you can create pipelines in minutes for your Puppet code, which gives you scalability and allows you to ramp the skills up of your teams. Gives you the ability to control changes across your entire environment. And you get to visualize everything in your Puppet code development. That's pretty cool. So really taking the best of both worlds, right? So just in the configuration management tool, also giving you the ability to do CI/CD. So one tool allows you to do both dev and ops together.
Oh, that's great, Darren. So I'm able to identify the services that I would like to offer and then use the Puppet Enterprise agent to be able to enforce the configuration management, and also able to use the Puppet pipeline tools to be able to do a CI/CD with the gates, with the ability to be able to track and monitor this, which is kind of very nice. So this helps for us to kind of start consuming more services all the way on the right, where once we have discovered the resources, we are able to move into the traditional infrastructure. You might be looking at automating your network, compute, storage, which would be your traditional virtual machine provisioning, or it could be storage provisioning. How do I provision additional hard disk drives and things like that? But you are also able to move up the stack, that you are able to quickly provision cloud services. For example, how many of you have even had the discussion of provisioning database as a service? Right? So, is that a database as a service that you would like to provision? Or is it a database instance as a service that you would like to provision? Or is it a database server as a service that you would like to provision? So, we start getting into these details, and then we are able to also ensure that we are able to cater to that particular need, right? Along the chain, we are able to go into application services. The same thing, people who, when we engage in discussions, people start talking about, I want to have web server as a service. So how are you going to define that web server as a service? Are we talking about Apache, Tomcat, IIS, on 2012, 2016, what version, what flavor, what security problems that we are facing, .NET 3.5, .NET 4.0, what are the security vulnerabilities? So what happens is Puppet essentially helps you to enforce those compliances. So you are only going to provision a vanilla VM and that you are able to really consume the services and provision the applications and continue the journey to go deep as well as broad. So that's how we are able to really look at, okay, what are these things? And also I can enforce the cost management. Most of the services that we want to consume, we want to ensure that there is enough cost management and cost transparency that I can charge back and show back to the business, and that's what we are able to provide.
All right, so anyone out here just build infrastructure for infrastructure's sake? All right, we build infrastructure so we can run applications to drive business value. So we've talked about knowing what you have, finding what you've got, then managing it. But how do I now bring dev and ops together? We talked about the dev and the ops guys not having coffee and mug come together very often. How do we help them come together? So we have a tool that allows you to do that called Puppet Pipelines. So Pipelines allows you to deploy any application to any target. So you can build applications that you can deploy in a traditional 3-tier model. You can build containers that you can deploy to VMware's cloud. You can deploy to Google's cloud, to AWS's cloud, to Microsoft Azure's cloud. It's CI/CD, but if you've got a preference for, say, Jenkins, you like using Jenkins, we allow you to do that. So we can give you the CI piece, or we can then plug in, swap the batteries out we've got, swap the Jenkins batteries in. So now you've got the ability to do any CI/CD platform. Can you just jump back and finish that last point? The way I refer to this tool is this allows your developers to quickly sprint. They can sprint to development, and your operation guys can now work with them to when do you release that to production. Traditionally, historically, the developer guys will finish it, they throw it over the fence to the operations guys and say, there you go, your problem. Sound familiar? In this case, you have a graphical tool that allows you to pipeline, graphically visualize where the different builds are, from staging, from from development to testing to staging to production. You can schedule that together and work with it together and do that, if you like, with guardrails. So this allows you to deploy applications much faster and successfully by having the two teams work together. The tool sets will allow these people to come together so you can foster better collaboration. So kind of Raj, if you jump on, what we've kind of said now is the 3 best practices we're seeing are know what you have, scale broadly and deeply, and then automate your application release cycle. And at the end, we'll come back to showing you some best practices for that. But I know most of the people in this room want to hear about how we do this with VMware. Is that right?
That's right. So thanks, Darren, for all the 3 steps. Now, how do we get this together with vRealize automation, right? So we want to actually look at how does vRealize automation helps us to integrate together with the Puppet so that you are able to take care of both provisioning and also be able to enforce the configuration management and take it further up the stack. So essentially, how many of you have worked on vRealize automation? Right. Okay. So I think, so vRealize automation provides you with a self-service portal that helps you to be able to go and request for resources. So let's say I just want to go and get one Windows server or one web server, right? So it helps me to go and put a request while ensuring that I can understand what is the available capacity within this particular environment and what is the cost depending upon which tier that you are actually going to request and what features that you would like to have. So essentially you go and log into the self-service portal and request for the resource. What it does is basically to go and provision the VM while ensuring the proper governance. Once the approval is taken, after the approval is being done by your manager or the line of business owner, subsequently the virtual machine gets provisioned and you can also ensure that the application services are deployed onto it, which can be provided to the end user for them to continue. Right? So that's what it does. So what some of the key use cases? Like I said, I was in a very interesting discussion with a very large security firm. One of the key challenges for them is they did not want to install any agents within the operating system. They were having almost like 14 to 15 agents, including Carbon Black. They said, we do not want to install this because every time I have a template with this many agents, I have to go and perform a VAPT on this, and I need to repeat this every month. So imagine if you are able to provide a vanilla VM and then get these agents and all these softwares to be automatically deployed. You are actually reducing the time it takes to get the approval and the blessings of the security team. The second thing is the faster time to market. Right? So you are able to get a complete 3-tier architecture from a web app and a DB tier, along with the security postures being enforced. Right? When we are actually going to provision of virtual machines, we want to make sure that these virtual machines are assigned to the proper security groups and proper firewall policies are open. And these takes pretty much like 2 to 3 weeks. So the use case that we were talking was the application tier to the web tier, application tier to the DB tier pretty much took 3 weeks because of the change management process. So how are we able to ensure during the provisioning process itself, we are able to enforce these security policies? And how does it help to enforce better, how does it help to enhance better collaboration so that we know that the particular service that you have requested is provided to you and the complete governance has been followed. So VMware automation predominantly delivers the agility, which means I can just go click what is the specific service that I would like to consume and go and get that approved, what level, which tier, gold, platinum, silver, and with what CPU, memory, and storage. It basically provides you with the infrastructure as a service component. The personalization that we are talking about is to ensure that the approval policies, if you have multiple levels of approvals, you are able to get those approvals and you get the cost transparency depending on the tier of service that you are requesting and the choice. Essentially, whether do you want to actually integrate this with OpenStack or do you want to actually integrate this with multiple different type of hypervisors or do you want to provision this in Amazon Web Services or any other different cloud, right, including bare metal. So you get the choice. So basically, you are able to get a policy-based governance along with an automated delivery of service that can be consumed and also across different platforms. So with that, we will quickly go into a quick demo in terms of how this whole thing works. So it's going to be around about 2 to 3 minutes of demo. And in that, we will actually look at how a user logs in and requests for a resource in a VMware automation, and how the administrator logs in or the manager logs in and provides the approval, and subsequently, how does it ensure that the VM is provisioned and Puppet is actually, the Puppet agent is also installed together with that. So here you can see that there are no nodes, and I'm going and requesting a multi-mission blueprint with both the web server and MySQL server. So these are basically the Puppet classes. I'm able to dynamically get these classes and I'm actually requesting for it, and now I'm logging in as a manager and approving these requests. Once I approve this request, I should be able to see that these missions being automatically provisioned. So this is the place I said, you want to enforce the security policies, you want to make sure that the web server belongs to a specific security group, you should be able to do that. If you want your database server to belong to a specific security group, you can enforce that as well. So as you can see here, after the VM has been provisioned, these VMs has already been automatically installed with the Puppet agent. So we basically do the vanilla VM provisioning, but then now we are actually launching the web server. And we are also going and launching the MySQL server. The database is already installed on it. And as you can see here, that the MySQL server is deployed. What we are trying to do here is just to enforce the Puppet classes. I'm just trying to enforce a web server class, and I can see that that's pretty much straight away enforced. Similarly, for the database, we are enforcing a database class, which will help us to create a user account on the MySQL server and also ensure that a specific database is actually created. So what you are able to do is to keep the configuration management separately and enforce that using Puppet, while the virtual machine provisioning and approval is actually taken care by VMware automation.
So Raj, this makes sense, for example, if a customer has VMware out there, virtual machines, it's pretty cool, but if they've got something other than VMware, so maybe they've got some other bare metal servers, they need the provision as well as part of their system, this will automate that for them seamlessly.
Definitely. I mean, it's pretty much an agnostic solution. What we are looking at is, am I looking at an on-prem or off-prem or a bare metal, right? So depending upon the specific use cases, but then that's when we're starting at the infrastructure as a service. I get the CPU, memory, and hard disk, but then how do I enforce the configuration and the security management? And that comes from an agnostic platform like Puppet. So what are the benefits? It's pretty much a template sprawl. If you have to install all the agents inside the vRealize automation or the vSphere template, it's going to create a template sprawl. And if you start doing software components, you are going to create a lot of fragile ad hoc scripts, which you need to change from operating system platform to operating system platform, as compared to leveraging Puppet agent with the SDL, right? And we are also able to enforce the security on the compliancy on a very, very consistent and a continuous basis. So this is just to talk about the ecosystem in terms of how does this fit together. The VMware Cloud Marketplace has got a lot of blueprints that you can actually bring inside the vRealize automation and consume it. And then the Puppet Forge community has got several thousands of modules that you can straight away consume, bring it inside. And the vRealize integration basically consumes those roles that you are going to assign on the Puppet master and dynamically assign it to the blueprint, so you contain the blueprint sprawl as well. So with that, we just want to kind of cover up on what is the approach, right? We just saw a quick overview into demo. What do we do is to identify the specific service definitions, and we need to understand what are we going to offer as a service and what are we going to consume, and know where do we start based on the service consumption model or the utilization model, and then create a business case in terms of how does this entire DevOps journey will happen, right? So if you would like to know more, please join us on 15th of October. We have a very intensive technical workshop that we are conducting, and you will be able to learn more about the VRE and Puppet and things like that. Over to you, Darren.
Thanks, Raj. So remember we talked about the State of DevOps report, which you guys have access to and downloaded, and we segment that by industry so you can see which segments are moving faster and which aren't moving so fast. But there are 5 foundational practices that we're seeing with organizations that are having success with driving pervasive automation in DevOps. And they are that you have monitoring and alerting are configured by the team operating the service. So there's ownership as a platform by doing that. Deployment platforms for building applications or services are reused. We just heard about how you can do that with vRealize. Reusing those templates is critical to consistency and automation. Testing patterns for building applications or services are reused. Again, defining those and reusing them, not having to do them manually each time and redefining them. Teams contribute improvements to the tooling provided by other teams. So this is when the teams talk to each other. They use the same tool set. They understand each other's languages. They can understand each other far faster and provide that feedback to each other. So having a tool set that can be used by both is critical. And then configurations are managed by a configuration management tool. And you saw that earlier. You see that vRealize is managing the portal, if you like, and the service catalog. And then when it needs to invoke automation on underlying infrastructure, it calls a tool such as Puppet. And we'll then go and manage the Windows servers if you have some, the Linux servers if you have some, the mainframe if you have one, the network devices as a part of scaling, not only broadly, but scaling deeply as well. So please download the report and take a look at it. If we're right on time, so we jump to the last slide. As you think about this journey to pervasive automation, we'd ask you to have a look at the State of DevOps report. Think about, discover what do you have continuously is really important as to where do you start. Remember, automate what's closer to production and automate what's early in the software lifecycle. Scale broadly and deeply is critical to your success. And automate delivery. Speed up delivery so that developers can sprint and then you decide when you deploy. And if you look at the tools that we've shared with you today, you can basically improve your agility and reduce cost by eliminating all those manual processes. Doesn't mean people's jobs goes away, it means you can redeploy them to take advantage of new technologies and disrupt your industry yourself versus someone else doing that. You can also continually monitor critical workloads and ensure that no one gets hacked. Remember, if you deploy a standard configuration on any of your devices and some changes, it will reinforce that change. So it will remediate to make sure nothing changes. So a lot of the recent hacks we've had wouldn't have happened if you had Puppet running, because we would enforce that policy on every one of those devices and alert you to that so you knew something was happening. So as you think about your next steps, look at that platform. Look at an automation platform that allows you to scale not only today but tomorrow, but also allows your teams to talk a common language. Because there's a piece of automation which is automating those IT processes, but also bringing the dev and ops guys together to be successful. So on that note, we'd like to say thank you.